Welcome back, Roster the People. 32 teams, 32 days. Neil Smith, Jason Draven, Mike Burland. We're just going to continue plowing through the NFL here. We're moving on. We're on to the other New York team.
Not based in New York.
Right. Both New York teams not based in New York. Right, exactly. So there you go. So we're on to the Jets. Jets, Jets. Yeah, you know the whole drill. So this is your 2024 draft guide primer, as we will continue to repeat for anybody who might be seeing this for the first time. We are going to break down every NFL team for you. We're going to talk about all the offseason moves. We're going to talk about ADPs. You're going to hear a lot of ADPs, a lot of ECR rankings, and we're part of Fantasy Pros. We are a Fantasy Pros affiliate. So Jason and I do rankings. They get slushed into the ECR, and if there's any crazy deviation from that we have, we will talk about it. Like when Jason was talking about how Devin Singletary was a top 12 running back for him, and my monocle fell into my drink. So tune into yesterday's show to see how that worked. But today is going to be interesting as we talk about a team that actually has a lot of expectations. So keep in mind that this is going to be all based on PPR redraft, 12 team. That's what this is all framed around. If we have notes for other formats, we'll bring them up as we go. And with that, today is the 16th of August. So bear that in mind. Week 2 of the preseason. On the 31st, we will have the recap show where we will update all the takes that need to be updated. And that will go up early in the morning so that you can get caught up right before your drafts, because that is the weekend that most people are drafting. That is the weekend we recommend you draft, even if you need to do a slow draft. Also, we will talk about some changes on that show that Sleeper announced this week that have made Jason very happy and also might put him out of business. It's a combo platter on that one. You take the good with the bad, and there you go. The facts of life. Nobody under 50 got that joke. There you go. I shouldn't even get that joke. I'm too young for that joke.
It's a good show.
Yeah. That everybody in the retirement home was like, yeah, my humor. All the boomers loved it. And all the Zoomers are like, what the hell is going on here? All right. Enough waffling. Enough of that. Jets. Speaking of boomer humor, Aaron Rodgers is going to be quarterbacking this team. We'll see if he gets hurt on the third play of the season again. I will say the odds of that are a lot lower because they have fixed the O-line. At least on paper, they have fixed the O-line. They spent a lot of money working on that O-line in the offseason because I think they knew this cannot continue. So we'll see if it worked. Mike, you do PFF stuff. What do you think about the Aaron Rodgers situation with the O-line? And I don't really want to talk about the time away from the team and all the drama. I don't want to get into that. It's stupid. But what do you think about their O-line?
Definitely improved. I'm glad they drafted someone as well because, Tyrone Smith and a couple other players on that offensive line aren't the picture of health, right? So I'm glad they went offensive line as well in the draft. So I feel much better about it for sure. And it made no sense that I know they were talking about like Brock Bowers in the draft and stuff. It was like, your quarterback, your team fell apart because your 40-year-old quarterback just blew out his Achilles. Like, please protect him for all of our sakes.
Because he got bull rushed on the third play of the game, and they didn't even touch the guy. He just picked him up and body slammed Aaron Rodgers into the ground, and that was it. That was the end of it right there.
Yeah. So there's some concern with the health of the offensive line, but we're entering week 1, I feel pretty good about it. I feel pretty good about it. Much better.
The backups. Because if they have too many backups, you're going to start getting into the problems that they had last year. But Aaron Rodgers, even at 40, to use another old person soundbite that Jason will understand, I'm a man. I'm 40. You want to pick a fight? Fight with me. Google it. Google it, Zoomers.
Still coaching, by the way. The same.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's still
where's he coaching?
Oklahoma State. He's still at Oklahoma State.
My.
Yeah.
Oh man, that made my whole day.
As of last year, at least. So
that made my whole day to know that that's still happening.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, he's 40. He's a man. Opens as the QB 20. 121 overall in the ECR. His ADP is 135. And this goes to my theory that no matter what I say, no matter what I do, people will draft Aaron Rodgers, and it makes this entire conversation pointless. I will just do this quickly. I do not recommend drafting Aaron Rodgers, especially there. I think there are other options that I like that are later. If you do get saddled with this, I think you could expect a performance similar to what you saw before the injury last year, where he was good, not great. He can still make all the throws, but the problem is he's not as athletic as he used to be. He can't run at all anymore. And he's starting to get a little questionable with some of that what do you call it, decision making. A lot of forced balls because he can't move. It's playing with his game. But there is still some value to be had. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. I don't hate it. It doesn't I'm not sitting here like, oh my God. But I think the big thing about this is there are other names I like more. If he was my backup, okay. If he's my starter, I want a good backup. I want something else to go with it, 100%. But I do think he's still got enough gas in the tank to not crater out the skill position players that we actually do care about that are very expensive. Does anybody have any upside? Anybody have any happy thoughts for Aaron Rodgers? Anything good?
He has a lot of weapons. I mean, his weapons are solid.
He does have a lot of weapons.
So if he can get it to him, I mean, there's hope. Jets should have a winning season if he stays healthy. If everybody stays healthy.
Defense is looking better. I mean, it's possible.
Playoffs?
Yeah, we'll see about that. We'll see about that.
Too hopeful. Okay,
we'll see about that. We'll see about that. Maybe. We'll see about that.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
I brought this up pre-show. Last time we saw him healthy, he wasn't that great. He was fine, but he wasn't that great. Aaron Rodgers threw like 28 touchdowns and 3,800 yards or something. So
yeah. Sub 4,000-yard season in the modern NFL is not ideal.
Yeah.
With no rushing floor.
Yeah, exactly.
Like zero rushing floor.
Yeah. He feels a little bit like, we talked about Derek Carr as a streamer. Aaron Rodgers should probably be in that category, but he's not going to be because it's Aaron Rodgers.
Kinda. So. He's going to be a backup. The problem is he's going as the QB 20 and the ADP is actually lower. So he would technically get close to streamer. Assuming that not everyone in your league takes a backup quarterback in a 12-team league, he would be considered a high-end streamer. But in a lot of leagues, if you play in a league where people are taking two quarterbacks, he wouldn't be a streamer. He'd be somebody's backup.
Yeah. And I think he will be someone's backup. Yeah.
Probably because of the name. In public leagues, even though the ADP is 135, I still feel like he's going to get drafted more often than not just because he's got a 12 on the jersey and people are going to remember the glory days. So yeah, it's not something that I think any of us are going to pound the table for, but if it wound up happening that way, I certainly wouldn't overdraft Aaron Rodgers thinking that there's some tremendous upside here. He'll get back into the top 12. I think those days are over.
Man, I don't know. It's really close just because his last season with Green Bay, he really didn't have anybody to throw to. I mean, he had Watson and Dobbs. Both were hurt. His top wide receiver was Lazard. Then he comes in and plays, what we said, 3 or 4 snaps.
It was 3 plays.
Okay. Last year, he has that dominant wide receiver in Wilson. He has Breece Hall. He has Mike Williams. All these good weapons. And Lazard, who was his leading wide receiver the last time he played in Green Bay. But so, and that's where the gray area comes in.
On that one.
I mean, I don't love it, but I can see people taking him, especially if you have one of those potential riskier players that you're taking as an option.
Well, that's what I mean. I've got Aaron Rodgers in that little area with the Jared Goffs, the Trevor Lawrences of the world, of the late career Matthew Staffords. It's all that. He's slushed in with that. So if you get 2 of them, like I'm recommending you do,
yeah, that'd work.
That's fine. If he's gonna split the job on your fantasy team with one of those other guys, I personally like Lawrence the most off that list. I'd be fine with it. It's fine. It's fine. If you're gonna do that, you need a good backup, and Aaron Rodgers he ain't dead yet. But I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh no, he's gonna finish in the top 12 and all that. No. But he'll be serviceable. And I agree with Mike. If he does become a streamer, he will be a very high-end streaming option. So there is that as well. Backing Aaron Rodgers up is Tyrod Taylor. who I am just happy to see is still in the league.
Dude continues to find job.
It's insane.
Like it's
The
so
Chargers
impressive.
tried to end his career, and he just keeps going.
Chargers medical staff. All right.
That's still part of the Chargers.
I know, but
It's still part of the Chargers. It's just saying. You can't delineate it that way. Moving on. Tyrod Taylor doesn't matter. I just saw his name when I was putting this together, and I was like, right on, man. Love it. Happy
Good
for you. Happy for you, dog. Happy you keep getting checks.
He led the Giants in passing yards last year.
I probably wouldn't put that on my resume. I don't think I would put that on my resume. I think I would leave that off. Speaking of which, now the show is going to go faster because there's not a lot that requires much analysis. Watch this. At running back, hey, look, it's that guy Breece Hall. Hey, he's good. He's very talented. We've seen that over the last couple of years. He has very little in the way of competition. As such, he opens as the RB3. He should be going about 8 overall. Guess what? He's going at 4. He has the whole job to himself. He can do it all. He can run between the tackles. He's incredible. I don't feel that we need to spend a lot of time talking about Breece Hall. He's a first-round pick, and you should be happy to get him. If you can get him, you should. The only running back that I think I like more would be Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah. I mean, I like Bijan, but yeah.
Sure. If that floats your boat, but that he's third for me. So, okay. Because I think Breece catches more passes. That's the literal decider. That's it. Would you care to... Anyone want to disagree with anything on Breece? Breece Hall is a top 5 pick, and he should be. There you go. Moving on.
At football.
Good at football. His backups would be Braylon Allen and Izzy Bonaconda. Fine, but they're not handcuffs, and they have no ADP, and they are not being drafted, and that is correct.
And aren't healthy.
And are not healthy. And if something was to happen to Breece Hall, knock on wood, heaven forfend, something was to happen to Breece Hall, this will be an absolute dumpster fire to try and figure out, and there is no one I want. There is no Breece Hall handcuff. Makes it nice and simple for you. Mike, do you want to have a thing about that? I see you smirking.
No, I do think Braylon Allen has kind of stood out as they seem to want him to be the number 2 guy. Now,
sure. Would he be a handcuff though? Like he's going to get the job and like you care?
Probably not completely, but he does have that build. The dude's a monster.
Okay.
He can take on 20 carries a game or something if they want to do that. So, yeah, I mean, I just wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about him.
I'll do it.
Happens
we'll do it this way. Know who Braylon Allen is, because at some point it
exactly.
could become relevant on the waiver wire. But don't handcuff him in the draft. You don't need to waste a pick on that. Wide receiver. Hey, look, we're going to do it again. Garrett Wilson. He's good at football. Garrett Wilson, even with horrendous quarterback play the last 2 years, like the worst quarterback play in the league, still good at football. This year, the ceiling's even higher if they can just keep Aaron Rodgers healthy. Oh, he's going to get the ball. That's happening. Garrett Wilson opens as the wide receiver 7. He should be going around 10 overall. He's going at 12 ADP wise. He's a first round pick, as it should be. He good at football. He does everything well. There is nothing that Garrett Wilson cannot do from an NFL football starting wide receiver standpoint. He does every single thing at an incredibly high level. He should be being drafted where he is. Draft him with confidence. I'll defer you to Mike Manning if you want an even glower review of Garrett Wilson.
So it's amazing the Jets have 2 first-round picks.
It is incredible. It's legitimately incredible. That's why people keep thinking this might be a playoff team, because you look at some of the stars and it's like, man, you have some good skill position players and some bad other stuff.
Well, they sucked for such a long time.
I know. Well, and then their owner was part of that guy's cabinet who used to run this country and is attempting to run it again, which we're not going to get into because it's not what the show's about. And then he came back from that and he took the team back over from his brother. And it's like that meme from Community where Donald Glover walks in with the pizzas. He's like, hey, I'm back. And everything's on fire. And because his brother ran the Jets into the ground, which is hard to do. Like, 'cause it was already in the ground, so like you ran it even harder into the ground. Like I couldn't believe it. It's like, how did you crater it more than it was already cratering? So that happened. That was fun. And now that the proper ownership is back in place, you've noticed over the last couple of years, things have started to slowly get better.
Good
So
coach.
yeah, new coaching. I don't really like their coach very much. That's that whole thing with me.
Good
Like,
defense.
yeah, I don't really like Salah, but not my cup of tea. Um, so beyond that, there you go. So those are the two. There's a handful of things on this team that will be drafted. Two that I think are slam dunks: Hall and Wilson. It's weird the Jets do have two first round fantasy. It is weird. Like, it is a weird note. Like, people will draft Aaron Rodgers, and then we get into they had to figure out some kind of second option that isn't Garrett Wilson, because it's not Alan Lazard. Alan Lazard could be on the team if he wants, but it's not Alan Lazard anymore. So they had to figure some stuff out, and they have. So they've done two things from last year to this year. The first thing is signing Mike Williams from the Chargers. Well, as a free agent, but formerly of the Chargers. That Mike Williams, Mr. Knee, Mr. My knee doesn't work. And I would feel worse about that, but it's every year. So after like the fifth time, I kind of stopped feeling bad. So it's like, but he opens as the wide receiver 58, which should be 138 overall. Remember I mentioned the knee? The public is not having that. The public's got him at 155. And that is a function of people that have been burned by Mike Williams in the past. That is why that is happening. So, what do you guys think about Mike Williams? You're the resident Chargers people. If anybody should be bitter, it'd be you two.
Yeah, when he's on the field, he's an excellent player. It's just that he has to be on the field. I mean, we've seen him have massive games pretty much every time he's on. So,
yeah. Mike?
Yeah, no, I agree. He's on the field. He's awesome. I mean, the 3 games he played last year, he was a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy. And now he's going super, super late. So I'm fine. Like, this team needs a second option. That's not Garrett Wilson. And Breece Hall, I don't think is going to get almost 100 targets this year. Maybe, but
you better.
You know, Mike Williams.
You better. Salah.
Yeah. And he's decent as a you know, he can catch some touchdowns. I'm fine with taking Mike Williams. The risk is already baked into the ADP. If he gets hurt, you drop him. It's fine. He's not.
After years of hating on Mike Williams publicly, we finally did it. We got to a point where I'm willing to actually not just draft him myself, but recommend it to other people, because this is a 13th round pick, and I don't care anymore. So for a 13th rounder, you're getting a wide receiver 2 in real football, and you're getting something that we've seen have upside. So I am good with this, because again, yes, if he gets hurt again, just cut him. No one cares anymore. See, my issue with Mike Williams has to do with where people were willing to risk drafting Mike Williams. And I'm not doing that, but we ain't doing that no more. We've evolved. We don't have to have that conversation anymore. So now I love it. Mike Williams in the 13th round feels like an excellent value. There's a lot of upside on that. So I would very much recommend. Now, because of this situation, I have seen outlets and people on Twitter talking about Mike Williams being a value. And if I see that ADP start creeping up, we're gonna revisit this conversation. But for right now, today, August 16th, I'm good. I love it.
So how high will he need to get for you not to be in on him anymore?
He would need to get to the 10th round.
Okay. So
if he
like
gets to the 10th round, that's like 120 is what that would be.
Yeah.
You get to 120, I'm not interested anymore again, because it's too much. Because now I got to count on you. Because you're going to be like you're going to be like one of the flexes on my team, where I'm going to be looking at you every week like, oh yeah. And at that point, I care a little more. By the time we get to 13, yeah, you're like my 4th flex. I don't care anymore. It's fine. It's fine. It's good.
Yeah, if he can hit 100 targets,
that would be something.
I mean, you're looking at somebody who is likely a starter on your team.
Yes. That's what I
Every
mean.
week.
He'd be your weekly flex.
Yeah.
He would be your every week flex in that situation. Or if somebody got hurt on your team, you'd be like, well, thank God I got this. Next man up. Like, so that this is one of the ones where I've had this circled on my my stat projections where I'm like, there's something fishy. And this is a situation where the hate has gone too far. It finally happened. It took 3 years. 3 years, and we finally got there.
Well, everybody's remembering his big year.
Yeah.
Like,
But that
where
was
he
3
was
years
still
ago.
behind
People
Keenan
don't.
Allen.
Yeah, but that
FYI.
was 3 years ago. But people don't remember that far back. Most people only remember. We've talked about this ad nauseum over the years on this show. Most people only remember, and this is not me being a dick. This is like statistically and psychologically valid. Most people only remember what they saw last. Certain people will remember what they saw 2 things ago. Very few people will remember what happened the 3rd thing ago. It's just the way human beings are wired. It's how we are. I didn't make that up. That's peer-reviewed science. So it's like, so there you go. And then we the last 2 guys on the team, it's Malachi Corley, who was the other new face. They drafted him. He has no ADP. I'm not willing to draft Corley. If we were talking about dynasty, that's a different thing. That's okay. I'd be willing to put a 3rd round pick in a dynasty draft on him. But in redraft, I'm not interested. And then same thing with Lazard. I'm just not interested in Lazard at all. He matters more to the Jets than he does to fantasy. Has anybody got any? I think it's the 2 wide receivers, Breece Hall, Aaron Rodgers, because nothing I say will change it. So you got, that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4 guys that are going to get drafted. 3 I'm excited about. 1 that it's irrelevant in what I say. And then we got 1 more to cover. Do you guys want to go through Malachi Corley or Alan Lazard at all? Because I don't feel the need to spend any time on it.
No, what I'm going to actually go off your list, unfortunately, because I want to be a note for people who are in leagues that have kick returners, and potential upside here. Xavier Gibson. He had some really beautiful flashes last year.
Oh, the deepest of deep cuts.
It's not that deep.
Yes, it
but
is. I'm going to prove it to you. Keep doing your thing.
I know he's not on the list, but
oh no, I'm going to go find how far down the list he is. You bought this, sir.
I know, but man, he really has flashes. It's, again, somebody who can, if he gets in space, he's dangerous. And this might be the year that, I mean, you have return yards. It's an option. Just throwing it out there because I'm sure that's where he's going to be. More than likely, he is not going to be when the starter wide receiver sets.
Xavier Gibson in the ECR is the wide receiver, 129, 356 overall.
Beautiful.
Yep.
He's free.
I just want to point out that when you say that's not a deep cut, sir, 192 players get drafted. So you could do an entire other draft before you would get to Xavier Gibson. I'm just pointing out, man. Like,
but yeah,
that's
why I'm bringing up in kickoff return leagues. You know, there's a chance.
Okay, I would argue with you about that if I could. In that very limited use case, I don't disagree. Tight end, once again, perennial roster the people recommendation. It's like a fan, you just can't get rid of him. Tyler Conklin. We talk about Tyler Conklin in an inordinate amount.
Way too much.
Way too much. He's like when I think of tight end streamer, this is actually what I'm thinking of in my head. Like, it's Tyler Conklin. He opens as the tight end 19, right in streamer range, which would translate to the 163 overall in the ECR, but he's 182 in the ADP because everybody hates, the public hates Tyler Conklin. And this is one of those areas where the public is always wrong. They're just wrong about it. It's fine. Everybody's wrong about things. Nobody gets it right all the time. But Mike, you and I were talking about this in the pre-show. I love, at some point, I will probably roster Tyler Conklin. I'm not going to draft him. And I wouldn't recommend drafting Tyler Conklin. You want to know why? Because I'm not going to start him. But here's the thing. He's going to get cut, because he always does. And then at some point throughout the season, I'm going to pick him up and I'm going to start him off the waiver wire. It's literally going to happen. So, Mike, talk about that. Am I crazy? Is that, or are we in alignment here?
No, that's exactly. We don't draft these guys because, like we said, you can find 10 of these guys. And why are you drafting them? Because once injuries hit week 1, you're going to drop him. He's going to be on the waiver wire. Yeah, I'll be starting him at some point this year. You're right. People do hate him. Go look at his Pro Football Reference page. They can't even give him a picture in the frame on his.
Oh, I didn't even know it was that bad. Oh, that's so sad. He's been in the league for like 4 years.
And one of the most impressive things about him: 3 straight years of exactly 87 targets. That's awesome.
Set your watch by it. 87 target.
87. He loves that number. He wears 83 though. So what's he doing?
He should wear 87.
I dropped it down to 77 this year, so he's in big trouble. But, last year, he had a game where he scored almost 26 fantasy points.
He did do that. I do remember that. That was a weird outlier. I'm not going to say that's not going to happen again, but that was very weird.
Well, but he also had 4 other games outside of that one that he scored over 10 fantasy points. And that's what you get him for.
That's more real. He's just a good streamer. It's not something you're going to draft. I would recommend drafting 3 things on this team. One is going to get drafted. Aaron Rodgers is going to get drafted no matter what I say. So whether I recommend it or not, it doesn't matter. There's 3 things I like. Aaron Rodgers is fine if that's what you want. And then Conklin, I wouldn't draft. I would just wait, pick him up off the waiver wire, and use him as a streamer, and then cut him again. And that's what his job is. That's what he does. But he's good at it. It's not to take it away from him. It's not like we think Tyler Conklin is bad. It's just he comes up a lot because we're constantly having to recommend tight end streamers for people. And he's a good one.
Every week. For 16
every week.
Weeks.
Yeah. I wouldn't want him to be my starting tight end. But as a fill-in or to deal with injuries, he should probably end up on somebody's roster again and again and again. Somebody will cut him. Somebody else will pick him up. Like, it's just the way that it's going to go. So that's the Jets. A lot of expectations this year, but it all rides on Rodgers' ability to be healthy. Because if it's Tyrod Taylor, they ain't winning nothing. We've seen that movie a lot of times.
But Wilson will still be valuable.
Yeah.
Like that's still going to be something that you can.
Hall and Wilson, I'm fine. You don't worry about that. It's not. Mike Williams would be a concern if Tyrod Taylor was out there a little bit. But the 2 big guys, the first-round picks, no, they're pretty much bulletproof. So I'm not really worried about that. But there you go. I know a lot of people think this team's going to be a playoff team. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility, but I think a lot of things have to go their way. I think they have to keep Aaron Rodgers healthy. I think the O-line has to stay healthy, and I think their defense has to actually be what people keep saying it could be. Those 3 things have to happen. The rest of it will fall into place if those things happen. Can that happen? Sure. Do I think it's 100% going to happen? We'll see. I wouldn't be laying any Vegas bets on it. That's all I'm saying. Nah, we'll be ask Mason about that. So, final thoughts on the Jets, gentlemen. Anything?
I think we covered it.
Yeah. Fantastic. Tomorrow we are gonna tune in to hear us talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. It's always a popular show because there's always a lot of questions about the Eagles because it's a popular team. So tune in for the Eagles. But until then, we'll catch you tomorrow. Keep up the nonsense.
I'm Tim Kitzrow from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, and you can find all the guys at ImportantNonsense.com. Kaboom!